All right, folks. Hello and welcome to Pro Baseball World Tour. Once again, this is Rick Crabbe, and of course, joining me on the line, future ambassador to Taiwan, Eric Marinbach. Eric, good to hear from you again, bud. How was your week so far?
Week's been excellent, and I don't know why they do this on a Saturday, but happy Father's Day in Taiwan.
Well, happy Father's Day to everyone in Taiwan, for me as well, definitely. And we'll certainly, of course, be talking in detail about the CPBL, as we always do, and as always, we refer to your knowledge of that league especially. As we usually do, we'll start with news here in North America. Once again, Major League Baseball, once again, another team with several COVID-19 positive tests. This time, instead of the Florida Marlins, it's the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, from what I heard today, Eric, the Cardinals, they delayed yet another weekend series. They were talking about whether or not they would be able to get it in with the Cubs or not, but sure enough, Major League Baseball decided to postpone that, which means they have not played a game since July the 29th, before our previous taping. So, once again, they're going to have to do more of a Corona shuffle, I guess, with the Cardinals and the other teams on their schedule. And, I don't know, it sounds like it's going to be a mess. I mean, especially if it's like the Marlins. I had heard, like, a couple days ago, they have to basically get in Florida has to get in 27 games within 23 days. And you had 1 week, I heard, they were going to have like 4 days of double headers. And it sounds like St. Louis and a lot of their opponents are going to have to do that as well. So, I don't know, I'm getting more and more concerned about Major League Baseball, Eric. What do you think?
You know what? I'm not concerned about it. What's happening in St. Louis now is what happened in Florida. Bottom line, though, you got to be concerned about anywhere that the Marlins go as far as who gets it next. Because it's only a matter of time where all of a sudden the Braves are going to get it. You've got a situation now where they're in New York this weekend.
Oh, against the Mets, guys. Is it against the Mets or the Yankees? But it doesn't matter either way, but yeah.
Right, they're playing the Mets. It's a little bit of a scary situation. As a matter of fact, if you're watching the games between the Marlins and Mets, which, by the way, first of all, kudos to the Marlins, who are actually in first place, partially because they played so fewer games than everybody else because of the COVID thing.
Right, yeah.
They are basically chopping their roster to the point where everybody, pitching-wise, is making their Major League debut. These are guys that played single league before. But unfortunately, due to the situation where so many guys are testing positive, and they haven't received negative tests yet to clear themselves, they are taking people from their alternate site, not even from their alternate site, basically using independent players from an independent league standpoint, but more or less single-A guys to fill their pitching staff and a lot of their position players.
And earlier in the week, it was like before they were supposed to play the 4-game series with the Orioles, the first game there was talk about them possibly delaying it. Eventually they did not, but they were still getting test results together. That was as of 5 p.m., whenever the first game was, which I think was Tuesday. And they weren't even sure they were going to be able to get that game in because the Marlins hadn't had all their tests yet, but I guess it's because they're getting players from all over the country or even beyond, I guess. I don't know, but that was crazy.
It actually makes you wonder where their alternate site is. I don't even know if it's considered in Jacksonville, which is kind of the most logical, given their geographical location. It could be in Greensboro. I mean, I'm just thinking from their affiliate standpoint, where they could possibly grab all these guys from.
Right.
And put them somewhere to just, like, bench. I actually think their alternate site is in Jupiter, which kind of scares you, too, being in the same state. But,
right. Yeah, it's like a northern more part of Chernobyl, I guess, for them either way. Gosh, it's scary. But I'm wondering if it's going to be a situation, too, Eric, if they're going to be like the Blue Jays, where they're basically going to be playing without a home. Because I think some of their home games. I think after they left Baltimore, they were doing, quote, home games at other ballparks. They did, out of the 4 series with Baltimore, 2 of their games were supposedly home games for Florida, but, it's such a mess.
I believe the situation in Toronto, in Buffalo rather, was they were trying to get the stadium actually, how do we say, air quotes, Major League ready.
Right.
So they had to adjust the lights, adjust this, adjust that, to make it Major League specifications. I think it's all paperwork and all that. But they're actually going to be debuting in Buffalo sometime next week, I believe.
That sounds about right.
We have a home game that's a home game.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And it's a shame that, the people of Buffalo can't take advantage of it. And it's fairly close to Toronto. And it's not the first time both of those cities have shared teams. I know a couple of years ago, the Buffalo Bills actually hosted a home game in Toronto. So it's kind of like they're flipping the switch there. But, regardless. Hope everything works out for them. I I feel bad for them because they're a team that's being affected, but they haven't done anything wrong, Eric, as far as, anyone testing positive or anything like that. It's just that their country's scared of the other teams coming in, and so far it looks like they're being proven right by the Marlins and the Cardinals, so.
2 out of 30.
Yeah, well,
Percentage.
Right.
And there was actually some sort of a report that out of everybody that's been tested, your total player pool among the 30 major league teams, 60 players per pool, and they're only coming back 1% positive as a whole.
Right.
So from an entire league perspective, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and initially before the season started, there were seemed to be a lot of good news coming out because of that. They were saying, I remember one day they said they did 10,000 tests and only it was less than 100 that tested positive or something. So, it was...
Yeah, the percentage of positive tests versus, actual members, it's low.
Right. That's definitely a good thing, and hopefully they can keep that going. I had also heard that because of all this, Major League Baseball has actually stepped up a lot of their guidelines with this, where basically they are not allowing players to go anywhere without wearing any kind of face covering except for when they are playing on the field, or if they're in their individual hotel rooms. And if they are also told that if they are to leave their hotel, they have to notify, I guess they have an official assigned to each team now. I don't know if it's an actual team official or if it's Major League Baseball. They actually have to say, look, I'm going down the street for some dinner, I'll be back, because they are being tight. You have that going on. And you have some guidelines that they were already following, such as stadiums have to provide undercover seating in addition to the dugouts. They have to provide, I guess, basically covered box seats for the players to sit in as well. And you and I have seen that in the the preseason and in the regular season games. So
right, the socially distant. How do we say it? Non-active starters are just sitting in the stands, basically enjoying a drink.
Right. Pretty much. And I don't know, and it's now basically the players, they are basically on lockdown. They're at a stay-at-home order, kind of like what the governors in our respective states gave us. Their Major League Baseball is doing that with the players, and they needed to. And it's kind of like you have an angry parent saying, "Okay, well, you know what? You brought this on yourself." And baseball, you kind of brought this on yourself.
I don't really think they brought it on themselves. I think it got to the point where the owners were frustrated that they were going to lose out an entire season, and basically it was their own fault because they would never come to an agreement with the players. The owners were the ones that actually signed these players to huge contracts, so there was going to be a grievance either way, especially with the present player agreement due to expire next year.
That's going to create another mess. provided we don't have more of this COVID or something else. Who knows? I mean, is this so?
Like our president says, it is what it is at this point.
Unfortunately. Well, while we're on the subject of the major leagues, let me give the out-of-town scores. These are finals. It looks like many of them looks like earlier today, and some of them are still going on as we speak. We have a final from Comiskey between the Indians and the White Sox. Indians winning 7-1. We have a final from Tampa Bay. The Yankees defeating the Tampa Bay Rays 8-4. From Pittsburgh, we have the Tigers beating the Pittsburgh Pirates 11-5. From Oakland, we have the Oakland A's beating the Houston Astros 3-1. And it looks like this is the second game of a doubleheader in the 7th inning. Currently, we have Tampa Bay over the Yankees 5-1. In the 7th inning in Philadelphia, we have the Phillies over the Braves 4-0. The 6th inning, we have Washington Nationals over the Baltimore Orioles in D.C. 2-0. The 4th inning, we have in Arlington, looks like the Texas Rangers and the Angels are at no score. And let's see, and then others, we have the Twins and the Royals. Kansas City's leading Minnesota 1-0 in the 3rd inning. In Milwaukee, we have they're hosting the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds are leading the Brewers currently 3-0 in the 4th. Looks like the top of the 4th, I should say. In the bottom of the 3rd, we have the New York Mets leading over the Fighting Miami Corona Fish 2-1. Let's see who else. And in Boston, we have the Red Sox leading the Blue Jays 2-0 in the bottom of the 2nd. And postponed, as we mentioned, the Cubs at St. Louis. And then later on, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific, we have the Diamondbacks at the San Diego Padres, the Rockies at the Seattle Mariners, and the Giants at the Dodgers. All at 9:10 Eastern Standard Time. So there you have it for the major leagues. I guess that's a good place to take a break then. Alright, folks, coming up, we'll be discussing the KBO. We have a few things going on with that, and also, as you and I discussed, Eric, off the air, it looks like KBO increased their attendance percentage a little bit, and we'll talk about that shortly. You're listening to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Media. We'll be right back. Alright folks, welcome back to Pro Baseball World Tour. Rick Crabbe, Eric Marinbach. And we are taking our World Tour from the United States over to Korea and the KBO. We have a few things going on with the KBO. Their second full week of fans in the stands. And in fact, as I mentioned just before the break, the KBO has announced that they are increasing their percentage to 30%. They were allowing 30% in the stands as opposed. What was it before, Eric? Was it 10 or was it 20%?
I believe it was 20.
It was 20. Okay, well, they bumped it up now to 30. And it really does make a difference. I mean, for like newer fans of the KBO like myself who have just been basically learning some of it from ESPN and then learning more of it from folks that are more knowledgeable and actually seem to care more about the KBO. It was no big deal. We were used to seeing fans, empty stadiums with these games, but then seeing the fans, seeing the enthusiasm, it definitely makes a big difference, and I'm glad for them. I'm glad more people there get to see the game. So, and it seems like the league itself seems like we're getting into kind of, for a lack of a better term, I don't know if they actually call it this in Korea, but basically a good pennant race. And we have a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Doosan's starting to slip a little bit, and the other teams are getting into it. Kiwoom has opened up a 2-game lead over Doosan, and the other teams that are behind them are right on their toes. LG's a half a game behind them. He is 2, and KT and Lotte are only 3.5. So it's getting pretty tight among the middle.
Right. I was going to say there's two teams that have been really impressing me lately with their momentum. Kiwoom is definitely one. I think they seem like they're the team that has all their phases figured out. It would not surprise me if they overtook that number 1 spot, in the playoffs. Because actually, right now, when I saw the standings, which we'll get to shortly, they actually have the most wins in the league. But because they played more games than the Dinos still have a higher win percentage. But I don't think it'll be long. The Dinos have been kind of been a little bit of a roller coaster. But actually, before the series earlier this week between the Wiz and Kiwoom, the Wiz seemed like they were coming on, especially, and it seems like Mr. Rojas has been carrying them on their back. And I just saw, the other day, he's in the lead for the Triple Crown. Basically, in the home run count, he's way ahead. In the percentage, he's way ahead. And RBIs, last I saw as of Thursday, he was 2 above Hyun-Soo Kim, still in the lead. But it seems like it seems like he's a shoo-in for that award this year. What do you think?
He got a big break by Hernandez being out with his injury for Doosan. And he just went on such a tear that unless he gets injured and Hernandez all of a sudden breaks out and hits like he had been doing before his initial injury, there's no stopping Rojas at this point.
No doubt. I mean, last week, you and I spoke about it when they had that game where they had the 8-run rally against LG. I know that Rojas, he scored, I think he hit 2 in that game, and I think he had the walk-off in it as well. And he's just amazing. He's really fun to watch. I actually got up this morning. I wanted to see them against Hanwha because I figured he would feast on Hanwha's pitching, but of course the game was rained out, so got up for nothing against it. but
that's why it's so good to have 3 leagues, so that this way, lately what I've been doing is you've got the ESPN KBO game in the morning on one of your HDMI ports. Mm-hmm. Your second HDMI port, you put a Japan game on, and then the third one, you put a Taiwan game. Between innings, you just switch over.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. It definitely would have been a good day for that. Would have also been a good day to use the old Twits for that, too. But regardless. So we'll get to the standings, as you had mentioned. I had just pulled them up. Let's see, where are we with that? Yes, here we go. Okay, so as we stand right now, these are, so this morning our time, August 8th, we have the Dinos up in front. It looks like Kiwoom, they're 3 back, but, like I said, they have actually one more win than the Dinos. Kiwoom has 47. The Dinos have 46, but because NC has played less games, they have 7 less losses than Kiwoom. But I think it's only a matter of time before they rectify that situation. So we have the Dinos, we have Kiwoom, then we have the Bears who are slipping. And by the way, speaking of this recently with the Bears, I gotta have to give it up for Lotte. They have been handling that team tough. I mean, they tied with them today at 1-1, which we'll get to the scores in a little bit, but yesterday they rallied back. They were down 4-0 going into the 8th, and they scored 8 runs. I mean, typical KBO middle to end relief performance, but still, I mean, have to give them credit. And it seems like they're kind of been on a tear lately. They won their last 5, so. And the KT Wiz, as we mentioned, I think they have some momentum. It's a tight race, basically between the Twins, the Tigers, and the Wiz right now, and actually the Giants, who are actually tied with the Wiz. So 4th and 5th place are still kind of up for grabs. So it's a good pennant race, as we mentioned. As we mentioned, we have NC, we have Kiwoom, we have the Bears, then the LG Twins in 4th place. Kia Tigers only a half game behind, 1 game and a half behind them. KT Wiz and the Giants tied, and only a game and a half behind the Tigers. So you have let's see. So 7 teams fighting for basically the last 2 or 3 top playoff spots. So KBO fans looks like you're going to be in for a good season, and especially if you're fans of any of those teams. So good luck for all of you. Sorry about your luck if you're a Samsung, Wyverns, or Hanwha fan, but I guess that's the old ball game.
They may actually prove to be spoilers if a lot of the makeup games that have to be done because of the load of rainouts are happening between them and a top-tier contender.
Right.
Because nowadays, I don't care what league you're in, it's very hard to sweep. And if they can all of a sudden split a doubleheader here and there and cause a little ruckus, prove out to be a spoiler, you never know how it can alter the rest of the league.
That's true. I could definitely see. I mean, you say that teams don't sleep, but I don't know. I could see maybe catching a little nap on Hanwha or more so Hanwha than anybody. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's get to the point late in the season. You know, a team with a record like that's what they're playing for, to be the spoilers to knock somebody out. But
also, there was the Major League debut in the KBO this week of former White Sox and Twin Daniel Palka.
Oh, wow.
Arriving for the Samsung Lions. So that's something to look forward to. He's actually grown into this big behemoth of a guy. When he was with the Lions last year, he started to out a little bit after the Twins released him.
Uh-huh.
But if you saw him in some of the pictures as he arrived in Korea and went through the quarantine, looks a heck of a lot bigger, so the power may be there. Defense? Don't know, but hope for the best.
Right.
Samsung can use basically anything they can get at this point.
Pretty much, you would think so. And throughout the KBO, really, I mean, defense and middle bullpen play sometimes has its issues. But, yeah, I mean, the stronger you can get in those issues, I think that's the farther you'll get in this league. And like I mentioned, I think Kiwoom, I think they probably have all those bases down as much as anyone right now. And the standings are beginning to reflect it. And like I said, it would not surprise me if they overtook the Dinos for that #1 spot.
Which would kind of be a shame after America adopted the Dinos as seemingly their home favorite only because of NC and North Carolina, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if they would have been the Hyundai Dinos, I don't think that would have happened. But, that's an interesting story, and it's savvy marketing on the part of the NC Dinos. The fact that, they had the relationship with the Durham Bulls, and literally the Durham Bulls even says, as the heading of their Twitter page, we are now on an NC Dinos fan page now. So it's like each team are selling merch for each other, so that's a good time. And like I said, Eric, if I had lived down there and I had worked for the Durham Bulls, I would try to find out what the regulations are for COVID as far as assemblies. I would try to actually get them to do like a drive-through play-by-play of their broadcast. Have something like people pull in to watch games for breakfast or something. I don't know. I don't know if that would work.
I ordered the shirt, the We Are NC shirts from the Bulls.
Oh, okay.
Actually asked them that question, and they were nowhere near a capacity for gatherings as far as setting up giant screens or anything like that. Plus the fact, between you, me, and the wall, I don't think North Carolina is ready to get up at 5:30 points.
No, probably not. Probably nowhere in our country is, tell you the truth, except for you and me and everybody who watches KBO at home. But I don't know. That would be a thought, but I don't know. There was another shirt of theirs I wanted to get, but they were sold out. I'll have to check their site to see if they got any more shipments of it. If you remember the movie Bull Durham, where they had the ad in right field where if you hit the bull, you win a steak. Well, they have a shirt with that with them and the Dinos, where it has basically it looks like a neon sign of a bull, and it has written that in Korean, and it has a NC and the Durham Bulls logo. So I guess they're trying to work on that for a while. I mean, It wouldn't be the first Korean team to do that. I mean, I know the Kia Tigers, they had, was it Brandon Tucker actually hit a minivan in right field and won a car out of that, so why not? That,
Well, I do know that NC's manufacturing, as far as their T-shirts and everything, it's out of somewhere in Iowa. So whenever something sold out, they reordered from their supplier, and everything was back ordered a little bit, but the supplier in Iowa was working like mad dogs to get out new material. So you might be able to get that shirt after all.
Yeah.
They reorder pretty quick.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to check that out. And maybe also, too, because maybe interest in that league is dying down a little bit with Major League Baseball back. I hope not, but it kind of looks like it is, or at least that's what ESPN seems to want. These months, I don't know. But, and by the way, I have to get out of the habit of saying I don't know, folks, so I apologize for that.
It is what it is.
Yeah. It is, and it's huge. Okay. All right, folks, we'll take another break, and when we come back, we will take our world tour over to Taiwan and talk about some CPBL. You're listening to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia. We'll be right back. All right, folks, welcome back to Pro Baseball World Tour. Rick Crabbe, Eric Marinbach. And as promised, we are taking our tour over to Taiwan and deferring to our expert on the CPBL, Mr. Eric Marinbach. Eric, what do you have for us this weekend over there?
You actually had today 2 shutouts, along with the first actual complete game of the season by former KBO guy Henry Sosa, as the Fulan Guardians defeated the Lions 4-0. The actual margin of victory was more or less a 3-run homer by a buddy of mine that used to be in the Pirates and Giants organization, Jinja Jiang.
Okay.
Who the Guardians actually took in this year's draft with their first pick, and he's been hitting like wildfire for the Guardians ever since he joined them.
Oh, my goodness.
So Sosa had the complete game. Jong had the homer. Sosa got MVP of the game and basically talked up Jong the entire time.
Nice.
Nice little battery there.
Oh, very cool. All right, and as we look at the scores, it looks like the Guardians, as you mentioned, they won 4-0. That was the complete outing. And then also, we have the China Trust Elfin Brothers defeating the Rakuten Monkeys 11-0. So,
that was actually a wild game. I'll tell you what happened. First of all, the victory today was by former MLB pitcher Esmiel Rogers, who spent a majority of the time with the Blue Jays, but a little bit of time with the Yankees as well. The game was actually halted a little bit by a bird delay, where there were a flock of birds on the field, and they stopped play for a couple of minutes just to try and get them off the field so that the players wouldn't be running into them for a catch.
Oof. Yeah, I saw that link that you had showed me earlier on that. I wasn't sure if it was for that game or not. I was going to let you confirm or deny that, but when you first mentioned...
It was actually today, and the guy who I showed you the Twitter feed of reminded people of a historical moment that on this day in Taiwan history several years ago, the exact same thing happened. There was a little addition to it, though. Not only were birds on the field delaying the game at time, but later on in that day, there was an earthquake.
Oh, gosh.
Fortunately, that did not happen today, but deja vu being what it is, if the birds would have shown up and the earthquake would have followed, that would have been really a deja vu moment.
That's pretty scary. Hopefully we didn't we didn't give any of the good people of Taiwan any bad luck mentioning that. Now, now before I saw that highlight, when he said bird delay, first thing I thought of, I don't know if you remember this, and I don't remember which team he played for. I think he was either with the Twins or maybe the Blue Jays at the time. I remember Dave Winfield in a game, he hit like a line drive, and it wound up hitting like a pigeon or a seagull or something, like towards shortstop. I don't know if you remember seeing that or not. I thought, oh my gosh,
I remember that, and I also remember a pitch that Randy Johnson that actually hit a bird as well.
Oh wow, yeah, I forgot about that, but I remember that now that you mentioned that. Damn, yeah, it's poor birds. Can't get any luck in Baltimore. Can't get any luck in Hanwha, and they can't get any luck anywhere like actually in between the bases. My goodness, poor birds.
Yeah, would have been a wonderful ASPCA moment for his recognition, but nothing ever transpired out of either one of them, I think.
Well, yeah, thank goodness. But okay, so now we're going to progress to the standings in the second stage of the CPBL. Your Rakuten Monkeys are on top 7-5. The Uni Lions are trailing them by half a game at 6-5. The Fubon Guardians are at 5-6, and the China Trust Brother Elephants are at 5-7. So, still very close race there. But
I tell you, you're going to have a lot of matchups where, since it's only 4 teams, the 4 teams know each other.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to have, later on, it's going to be very tight. The Lions are actually doing quite well in the second half, probably because of the minor league, the experience of former major leaguer Jaime Navarro as your pitching coach.
Oh, wow, okay.
They're rotating in new pitchers as we speak. The guy that used to be with the Twins, Logan Darnell, got released, and they imported a guy that was an Astro farmhand at one time, Brock Dickhorn.
Okay.
It took me about 15 minutes to actually figure out how to pronounce his name because of the weird spelling.
Oh, gosh.
But Dickhorn's been doing really well, and I think that Navarro has actually kept through to these guys.
Oh, okay.
It's a shame it took half a season, but if they can get into the second half and give the Elephants a run for their money, more power to it.
All right. Well, fortunately for them, it is divided in half, so that could very well happen. So it sounds like they're getting momentum at the right time. So some more excitement in the CPBL, folks. As per always. All right. Okay. Do you have any other news about that? Because I have some other news from some other leagues that we spoke about, but again, I defer to your knowledge of our friends in Taiwan.
No, that's basically it.
Okay. All right. Well, a couple of things I want to follow up on from last week. We discussed a couple of leagues in Europe. One of the leagues we spoke about was in Italy, and I happened to see on the Baseball Pacifica community in Facebook that the IBSPA, or FIBS, depending which language you're speaking in, and basically it's the governing body of baseball and softball in Italy. They had a press release, and it was dated August the 5th, basically saying that they were going to postpone a series this weekend. Let me get down to it. I will read this release right now. It's dated August the 5th. It said, since the beginning of this unprecedented health emergency, the IBSPA has worked closely with athletes and managers from all over Italy in order to collect as much feedback as possible, with the aim of knowing every critically and monitoring the progress within our capabilities of all activities, both during races and during training. The same FIBS, in the person of the athlete's representative Filippo Camelli asked us to support her in the editorial staff of the dossier presented to Minister Vincenzo Spadafora, which proved to be the fundamental piece for the resumption of all activities of our movement. This is why we are deeply sorry for the news that the series of 3 games between Colegio and the Macerata Angels and Paraclima versus Anjoy on the calendar between today and Saturday, August 8th, have been postponed to a date to be determined due to a case of positivity of COVID-19 inside the Macerata Angels roster. We want to express our complete proximity to the Marseille Society and thank you for their report to the federal bodies and competent authorities in full compliance with the safety rules and protocols that we worked hard on. A big wish for speedy recovery to the Angels athletes from all of us, the IBSPA Directive Council. So, our friends in Italy, looks like they had to postpone a weekend series as well, Eric, so good luck and more power to them. But it doesn't seem like it's spreading as much as we've seen with their American counterparts. Hopefully that is the case.
Well, I just looked it up now. Today's numbers in Italy, there were only 347 new cases within the country and 13 new deaths. Now, as far as the ratio between their deaths and their testing and all that stuff, I'm not going to get into it because if they're going to make it political like we seem to want to do, then it's a mess. But they seem to be handling it a hell of a lot better than we are. I know beating a dead horse.
Right. It seems like they're trying to be cautious. I mean, they're kind of having similar issues like with the Marlins and the Braves. The Marlins and the Cardinals, rather, where it's affecting one roster and they're concerned about the rosters of their prospective opponents or visiting clubhouses that have to switch into the stadiums, that kind of thing. But it seems like, I don't know, maybe they're just being better be safe than sorry. They're just being stricter with their testing, and hopefully they can resolve things.
I'm also not sure of how big that league is and region-wise the proximity of one stadium to the other.
True. And especially since this governing body also handles softball as well, I have a feeling it's not as big, obviously not as big as MLB or KBO or NPB, any leagues like that, but I mean, it could be a case of where it's almost like a semi-pro amateur level, so you have more concerns with that because it's, at least with like the higher paying leagues, there's incentive to stay home or you will be fined this, you'll be, that kind of thing, where if they're just a amateur league, I mean, or a semi-pro league, it's kind of like almost like no incentive. I mean, it's like they could be jeopardizing not only their health, but any like day jobs they could have if they're not doing well financially in that league. I don't know. It's just COVID's a mess.
I pretty much have the opinion of the smaller the league, if one case, pops up here and there, just shut it down for a while.
Right, because, I mean, the bigger leagues, I mean, you have a lot of other financial dealings, too. I mean, it's like if you're listening on the news to other sports, they're talking about whether or not to play college football in the United States, and some conferences are bowing out, some are saying they'll stay, but they'll play, like, in their own conference, and they're switching games where, for example, I had heard with Navy and Notre Dame, they were supposed to play in Ireland. Then they were talking about moving that to the Naval Academy, and then they decided just to do away with that altogether, and Notre Dame's just going to play there. Although Navy is a opponent they play just about every year. They're going to probably stick with like a lot of their Big Ten and other opponents that they normally play. So, yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. And one other thing, too, I wanted to mention this last week. When we were discussing Europe, there was a note in the Czech Republic. Now, this is an article that I have that was dated on the 9th, on June the 9th, but it is believe it or not, still current because it's referring to a tournament being moved to September. They normally hold it in July. This is a tournament that they call Prague Baseball Week. And this is according to the Confederation of European Baseball. It says, confirmed, the traditional Prague Baseball Week will take place again from September 30th at the Eagles Prague Complex. The tournament got a new date at the end of the season instead of the traditional June date. The organizers believe that most of the restrictions due to COVID-19 will be over at that time. We'll see about that. The weather could still be solid. We register a great interest in baseball both at home and abroad. It will be the only tournament from the international calendar of the European Baseball Confederation to take place. The performance of our successful national team will be interesting for domestic spectators. As always, our national team will play for the victory in the tournament. The second Czech team will be the junior national team of the Czech Republic, which will be preparing for 2021 when it will have a postponed European Championship on its program. At the moment, the starting list includes national teams of Germany, Russia, and Croatia. International stars, a several times winner of the tournament, which is the top selection of foreigners playing in European competitions, also confirmed their participation. Negotiations with other participants will be concluded by the beginning of July. Australia has postponed its participation in 2021. The tournament can take place thanks to the support of the capital city of Prague and the Ministry of Education, Youth, and Sports. We really appreciate the support, and we believe that we will prepare an excellent tournament. As always, the tournament will host an attractive home run derby and charity event. The tournament will take place for the first time in many years under the direct organization of the Czech Baseball Association. The place remains the same, and Eagles Prague will be our closest partner. Our effort is already concerned also about 2021, when we will organize the 40th edition of the second oldest tournament in Europe. Only Haarlem Baseball Week can boast a longer history in Europe. There is something to play for. The best teams will have a guaranteed participation in 2021. Make a note of this event on your calendars, and we look forward to seeing you all. So the city of Prague is planning on having an international tournament. It would normally be in June. Looks like they're still scheduled to have it in September. If we have any updates to that, I'll let you know. But Eric, as you and I discussed last week, some of these international sites, they aren't as quick to update as maybe like individual teams with their Twitters or like with scoreboard.com, sites like that. So I'll keep an eye on it for anyone who is interested. Any thoughts or comments about that? Or
I tell you, if our government would ever open up our borders and let people out of the country, any tournament that allowed fans where I could possibly have access to, I'm in.
That would be fun.
All right.
Of course, now it's not just us letting our people out, but it's other countries letting us in too. That's another issue. So, I mean, it's a double whammy right there.
It's a double-edged sword, but it's mostly we have to be able to get out first.
Right.
It's not going to happen for a while.
No. You got to get that curve down first, but hopefully next year this time we can just be talking about baseball, and the COVID will be just a checkered past. But something to hope for, I guess. All right, folks, we're going to take one more break, and when we come back, we will talk about our friends in Japan and the NPB, and we'll wrap things up. We're listening to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RTC Multimedia. We'll be right back. Alright, folks, welcome back to Pro Baseball World Tour. Rick Crabbe, Eric Marinbach. We are now moving our world tour over to the great island, great nation of Japan for the NPB. Now, Eric, last week when we spoke, you said that they were having some problems with the Warhawks, if I'm not mistaken, about positive COVID tests. Have you heard any update about them? Or
There's been no update about the one guy that tested positive. There has been no new outbreaks. So as far as I know, all they did was they quarantined the one guy who wasn't even on the Major League roster. I believe he had been playing for their minor league affiliate in like the Futures League type situation. And he was just discovered to have the actual virus. So he had actually been demoted before the actual positive test came up.
Okay. Well, as we look through I'm going to give the out-of-town scores for the NPB, and we'll see what we have going on there. Looks like in Tokyo we have the Chunichi Dragons defeating the Yomiuri Giants by the score of 3-1. We have the Nippon Ham Fighters defeating the Seibu Lions 7-6. Adam Jones's Oryx Buffaloes lose again, this time to the Chiba Lotte Marines 9-3. The Hiroshima Carp defeat the Hanshin Tigers 2-1. The Rakuten Golden Eagles defeat the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks at 4-2. And finally, in Yokohama, the Bay Stars defeat the Yakult Swallows by the score of 5-4. And we'll go to the standings of the NPB. Okay, we'll start off with the central position, where the Yomiuri Giants are in first place at 24 15 and 2. The Yokohama Bay Stars at 22-19 and 2. The Yakult Swallows at 19-18 and 5. The Hiroshima Carp at 17-20 and 4. The Hanshin Tigers at 18-21 and 2. And the Chunichi Dragons at 17-24 and 3. Going to the Pacific Division, we have Rakuten in first place at 24-18 and 1, followed by the Hawks of Fukuoka SoftBank at 23-19 and 1, the Chiba Lotte Marines at 22-20 and 1, the Nippon Ham Fighters at 21-20 and 2, the Seibu Lions at 18-22 and 0, and finally the Oryx Buffaloes at 15-24 and 3. So those are our standings for the NPB, the Nippon Professional Baseball League. Alright, so Eric, do you have anything to add about our friends in Japan or anywhere else in baseball?
Not at all. I was just looking through the NPB as far as possible new players, foreign or domestic, that got added in. I see absolutely nothing. I do notice former major leaguers that are kind of excelling, like Justin Gore for Hampshire, Corey Stangenberg for the Sable Lions, Joey Sands, who used to be with the Tuckers, is doing really well for Hampshire. So let's just hope the imports keep up their good work. Hopefully Adam Jones could actually make Oryx win a game or two.
Yeah. Well, hope so. They obviously need more help than just him, so they gotta have to do something, but what you gonna do? Alright, folks, well, I think this will wrap things up for our edition of Pro Baseball World Tour. And thank you for joining us once again. Be sure to follow us on our Facebook groups for not only the show itself, also for RTC Multimedia. And coming soon, we should have Twitter and IG accounts for them as well. Thank you for joining us, and as always, we will end with our singing and dancing routine from the Dino Cheerleaders. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
공룡 뚜루뚜루